Alright everybody, it's me, IHE Weasley. I for some reason watched all the Harry Potter movies over the past week or so, and I thought I wanted to annoy more people online after I rated Sinners on Letterboxd and people started freaking out. Why not make people more mad with Harry Potter discussions? So let's do the list. I don't know, this is a pretty casual video and we're going to do much editing. I just want to talk about my logic here, perhaps, and I don't, God, there's so many of them. Actually, to start, what I'm going to do is remove this. The Secrets of Dumbledore. I've not even seen it. Go away. Crimes of Grindelwald, awful. Just terrible, you can go to. And Fantastic Beasts also doesn't count. You can go away. So where do we begin? How about at the beginning? Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, because I don't know what a philosopher is. This is a cute movie. Let's get it up on IMDb here. Chris Columbus. So there's a lot of whimsy in the original two movies that I find really charming, and one thing that really hammered home on this rewatch of this is the way, I mentioned this on a Sardonicast episode before, how the emergent use of CG was just good enough where you could rely on it to do things never done before, but also wasn't quite good enough where you could use it as a crutch for absolutely everything. I should probably not show this footage, actually, I'll get a copyright claim. So, for example, in the first few movies here, you see this in action where there's this beautiful mixture of sets and creatures being on close-ups, so like a big model and a nice combination of tasteful visual effects. I thought, kind of jumping around right now, but in the Chamber of Secrets, the basilisk towards the end looks incredible. Like really great stuff, and a nice mixture of like big practical stuff going on. And I love that about this era, sort of late 90s, your Jurassic Parks up to, you know, your Lord of the Rings and the early Harry Potter movies. Just a great use of spectacle and visual effects without it going just all gooey, nasty, yucky, boring, weightless, lazy, that a lot of big productions of this scale wind up being. But I don't even know how should I do this? I guess I should start at the top. Yeah, which is obviously Azkaban. This is my favorite book too. I have read all the books. It's been a very long time. But there's something about those first three. They're sort of brief, quick, cute, whimsical. And obviously, I'm blanking on his name, Alfonso Cuarón, comes in and just ups the stakes and especially the staging and kind of energy to it. I love the way it's put together. As far as there's just like simple exposition scenes that are like really interestingly blocked out, and the way it like moves around and the music and everything is fantastic. Yeah, I really like this story too. It's got like the creepy werewolf and everything. It's probably aged the least out of a lot of those earlier ones, because in Chamber and especially Philosopher's Stone, there's some really aged stuff, like the troll in the bathroom, which has some okay moments, but it's similar to Lord of the Rings at the time. I think it was the same year and also had a troll scene. And they both look kind of rough in retrospect. It was maybe the CG wasn't quite there yet, but Azkaban felt like the story was just a lot tighter. The characters are kind of more, the actors I mean are more into their characters. They've kind of figured it out. They're less like literal babies, which I'd just forgotten quite how young they are in those first two. I think they're like 11 or something, which is wild, like that they took that gamble and all three of them worked out and kind of really figured out and fleshed out their roles throughout the whole thing, which is really cool and quite an ambitious, respectful project. Even though you can see a wide range of scores here, I do enjoy the whole thing as a kind of a journey, even though I don't like where it goes towards the end. But in Azkaban, it's a really interesting, strange structure with all the time stuff, and It's just cool and clever, and it brings up the stakes. The tone of it is a lot darker, and that reflects visually too. It's a very blue movie. Like the color grading is very blue, and quite a contrast to those first two, which are very colorful and kind of silly and campy. And it makes it a lot more serious. It's kind of right before that thing in Hollywood where everything got dark and dreary and serious with The Dark Knight and this sort of thing. But I like it. I think it really holds up. I gave that a solid 4-star TBH. Probably the only one I would really hold up and be like, this is just a great like fantasy movie. But I'd recommend to anybody, and you probably could just watch it as a standalone too. Right, what's next? Actually, if I go off my ratings here, it's actually Chamber next, which I know people are going to find crazy. Probably the hottest take here. I don't know. I find the first three as like a trilogy to be a really charming, I keep saying whimsical, but that's what it is. It's got the whimsy. It's got, coincidentally, these are the only three that Williams did the score for, John Williams. It's others after that point, and the others just, they're not scored as well. It doesn't hit the same way. It's not used as effectively. Something I really noticed in Azkaban was how the atmosphere is thick, and it would just take moments to flesh out a character or really sit with a character, like just that flying scene on Buckbeak when Harry's just saying the score swells, and it's like, this is really lovely. It doesn't feel like it's getting lost in these like really boring love triangles or relationship dynamics. It's just, hitting home. So yeah, Chamber of Secrets, why do I have it a 7? It was very close. This will be a low 7 for me. You get Dobby, of course. That's it. Nah. It is mostly because I liked I like the whimsy of Philosopher's Stone. The plot is very just like, we're setting up the world. Shit just kind of happens. It's really random as far as like where it goes, and the central mystery, like the MacGuffin of the Philosopher's Stone, is just like ultimately pretty pointless. It's kind of confusing even. Whereas at least in the Chamber of Secrets, while probably not planned, the whole like first Horcrux thing with the book is a nice sort of retcon. I like its loose structure with this kind of murder mystery thing, where it's like, it comes across as way darker than it is at first, where there's like all this blood like scrawled all over the walls, and kids are getting frozen by a giant snake, and it's like, I was praising the atmosphere of Azkaban, but I love the kind of central mystery and the way just how like magical the setting feels. A character in and of itself that definitely gets more diluted as it goes on. One thing that I really feel like holds back these first two, I'm going to say I don't care about Quidditch. I find Quidditch lame. I don't know if it's just like how it looks. It's a very difficult thing to pull off, them like flying around on these brooms with the visual effects of the time. And even like later Quidditch scenes, I just feel don't work for me. Chamber of Secrets, like that structure, super charming, quite weird. Strangely dark for a film from 2002, and aimed at kids. I don't know. It's a low 7, but still 7 nonetheless. Philosopher's Stone, also, these first three have a lot of things, but especially Chamber of Secrets and Philosopher's Stone, obviously the same director, have a lot of pros and cons in a similar way. That whimsy is there. The world building is really good in these first two. I like what it sets up, like what it explores. There's some kind of mixed performances and some mixed effect sequences, and some stuff is all over the place, but really charming overall. And I just like that it has this build up to this tone shift, so like light-hearted and kind of bubbly to begin with, before it goes to Azkaban and starts getting a bit, we got like asylums in here now, and people don't start dropping like flies quite yet, but still really likable. I can probably reference back to these ones as I go on. What would I put next? Probably Phoenix, TBH. One thing about these, especially these two, the Columbus ones, like the conveniences and the things that just happen are quite... At least there's more setup in Chamber of Secrets than in Philosopher's Stone, I feel. But man, there's some goofy stuff in there too. Order of the Phoenix, that was David Yates' first one, I believe. Let me double check. Yeah, David Yates' first one. I remember enjoying the book, and this was, well, the first was with Goblet of Fire. The books like doubled in size. They became thick boys around that time. So obviously adapting them is just going to be way more of a challenge. I'm pretty sure Goblet is the one that has like the elves making out that they like being slaves or something weird like this. As I said, it's been a long time since I read them, but yeah, this one has Umbridge, great villain. It gets darker, but also it's one of the things that kind of... Gotta stop showing the clips. David Yates basically has to deal with all of the significant deaths outside of Diggory and Goblet. And I think every one of them misses. There's not a single good death scene in Harry Potter. Is that another hot take? Or do people like those death scenes?
But Dobby's death, master.
We'll get to that shortly. Sirius Black is such a cool character, and that death scene is bad. They just don't linger on it enough. There's not... Things just kind of happen. He just falls through the thingy and no one really cares. There's no, like, funeral. It doesn't hit. And all of the David Yates movies have that problem for me. I don't know, it's just not that memorable, this movie. As they go on, 2007, it's not quite on the border of the CG slop overtaking everything, but it's sapped of color, but also sapped of the character that Cuarón was able to bring as a director. I just feel like David Yates is such a plain, uninteresting, boring director, and most of the good stuff from Phoenix is thanks to the book and having, fun villains like Umbridge to explore. Everyone likes the fight scene towards the end, which is okay. I liked it more in the earlier ones, where like the magic was actually a big part of it. Where the more they go on, the more wands just kind of become guns, and most of the action scenes are just kind of like flailing around with, and then like one side. Also, these wand battles where they're kind of like lightsaber fights, but less interesting because they're not like swords and don't have choreography like that. It's like, I shoot the blue thing and I shoot the green thing, and then they meet in the middle and sparks and particle effects fly everywhere. Which is, it's okay. It was way more interesting in the books, where your imagination can take hold a bit more. One thing about Prisoner of Azkaban too, actually, now that I'm jumping around and thinking about this, it has the whole time turner thing, which does introduce some pretty crazy issues, I guess, as far as like why they can travel through time. Surely you could solve like a lot of issues with that, which in the books I'm pretty sure Order of the Phoenix like addresses by like I think it's in that like last action scene where they're there. It's like, oh, something happened, and then all the time turners get stuck in an endless loop, so they can't be used anymore. All of them at the same time. Because I guess they realized they'd written themselves into a corner, or she'd written herself into a corner. So yeah, it's solid, it's fine, but also like not quite the beginning of the downfall, because I didn't actually rewatch Goblet of Fire on this string. I just couldn't be asked. There's like an exact shot where I'm like, oh, this looks bad. This is actually aged really badly. It's towards the beginning. There's like an establishing shot of like a tent. There's like they're in Ireland or something. And it looks rough. Lots of the visual effects are really just not great in the film. There's some good stuff. Remember the dragon looking okay, but I don't know. The story too is just like there's something tight about Azkaban that when you get to Goblet, it's like this. All these romance things start becoming involved, and these love triangles, and people getting jealous of each other. And yeah, they get into that kind of age, and it makes sense for that to be involved a bit more. But like, what is Voldemort even doing? is kind of cool when he gets like born out of the cauldron and stuff. But to get there, it's like there's all these games they got to play. They do like the Olympics. I remember really enjoying the book as a kid when it came out, but I just don't care about this film. Maybe I'm too harsh on the production, and I'm sure it's fun, but man, I probably would put this, now not quite fully at the bottom because Half-Blood Prince is there, but yeah, let's go to Half-Blood then. Yeah, because that goes right at the bottom for me. That's the worst one, I think. It's another huge book, very like lore heavy and all these. It's like jumps around time a lot, not in the same way Azkaban does, but in like a flashback sense. Like memories are a big part of it. It's got cool characters in it, but again with the death scenes, it's all about Dumbledore's death. And I just don't really like Dumbledore after the switch. I really love that actor in the first two. He has like a warmness and a kindness to him that really separates him from a lot of other like wise wizard characters like your Gandalfs or whatever. He feels like his own thing. But after the recast, he comes across kind of like an asshole to me. He's like pedantic and difficult. I don't really dig him as a character that much beyond that point. But yeah, Half-Blood Prince is the big. I remember when the book came out, it was like, who is the Half-Blood Prince? And that's another thing. Like Snape in the books is a really cool character, and they kind of do him a little bit dirty. He just doesn't get that much attention for a lot of the first few movies, which I guess he doesn't necessarily need, and it's more of like just an inherent advantage of those books where you just have so much more real estate to explore and explain things. But it's just a lot of the emotional moments do not hit in the movies that they do in the book. Half-Blood being a big one of those, with going back to that Gandalf. I'm even like, what's he called? Dumbledore death, where it's like, okay, like. And of course, you have to contrast it with a character like Gandalf death, and like the way it's presented, the way the music hits at that time, the reactions you get from all these different characters. It just feels like, oh, it happened. It's very matter of fact, and just like, oh, he's falling. You're sad, right? Yeah, I don't know. I don't like the way the death scenes are handled. I think that all of them are weak, in my opinion, and they should be. These are big, important characters, and it really does the story a disservice to not have that be a huge highlight. Half-Blood Prince is where they kind of start establishing the concept of the Horcrux, which is quite cool. Very like a Lord of the Rings-ish concept, with the villain splitting up the personality, I guess, into different relics, so they can't be killed. But again, they're just not very scene heavy. They're very just kind of meandering and like, oh, I'm mad at you now, and we're arguing over this thing, and blah 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 blah. I just kind of check out around this point. I just don't really care about this one that much. Which leads nicely into Deathly Hallows Part 1, which I'll drag towards the bottom here. I probably would put it over these two, because you get Dobby death scene, of course. It's all about these I'm mostly talking about these death scenes because I just feel like they're a good example of why they don't emotionally really work for me. It's quite a meandering, ugly film. All of these, once it gets to David Yates and that visual, it's like he was trying to do what Quran established in Azkaban, but just isn't. He's just missing. It's grey, it's drab, and not in a way that enhances the tone like Azkaban, where it's still like, oh, that was like a really impressive sequence, or the blocking on this was really interesting, or this was scored in a really cool way, or that was like a nice character moment. It's more like, I don't know, it starts turning characters like quite unlikable and just like, what are we doing? The joke about this one is that they're camping for most of the movie, and it's at least like that as far as, oh, this is a bit different. Like, we're not just spending the whole time in Hogwarts, we're trying to up the stakes with trying to find these Horcruxes, and it doesn't manage to do what like a Lord of the Rings can do, where it feels like a self-contained part that has its own beginning, middle, and end in a satisfying emotional journey. It does very much just kind of stop, and it's like, yep, this is about half the story. I'll see you next time, type thing, which is just an inherent problem that this trend started. Even though, truthfully, the only real way to do like Goblet of Fire and Half-Blood Prince justice, or Order of the Phoenix even, is probably to do them in 2 parts, about like 4 or 5 hours would really be the way to do it, if you wanted to avoid some of the pitfalls they fall into by making them just more sort of action heavy and missing a lot of the like emotional beats or character development, or even just like lore stuff. And then in saying the lore stuff, that's probably my favorite part of this movie, is the animated sequence where they're kind of explaining the Hallows, and it's kind of the setup for how Harry can survive being shot with Avada Kedavra in part 2, which is cool. I like whenever it indulges in the world a little bit more. It's just, I don't know, it's not very notable, quite meandering, just kind of jumps around. And the Dobby death scene, yeah, I didn't really go into that. Just completely unearned. It's like David Yates at that point realized, oh man, like the Sirius death didn't work. Dumbledore's death was a letdown. We've got to make Dobby hit, man. You know, like, and another contrast with the book at this point is that Dobby's like, he shows up multiple times throughout the books, but you only see him in Chamber of Secrets then. 8 years later in Deathly Hallows, he has a brief scene at the beginning. He's like, oh, remember me? And then, of course, dies towards the end. Another scene I remember being way more effective in the book. And yeah, you got everyone like freaking out and crying and screaming at Dobby's death. But I don't know. Elle's kind of OP in this universe, though. You just like teleport around and just do whatever, I guess. I don't know. I like Harry Potter. I'm not that into it compared to some of these other big franchises where I'm like reading the lore pages and watching YouTube videos around it and whatnot. So I consider myself a casual fan of this stuff. For any of you Potterheads out there that are getting angry. But yeah, that death scene is pretty egregious and just kind of unearned and cheap. It's like, oh god, sorry, I've got to skip this. This song is Tangerine Dream's song is stressing me out. Okay, that's better. What was I doing? I always have to have like music playing in the background to focus, but yeah, Dobby death, disappointing. Just kind of a disappointing movie. It doesn't have much forward momentum to it, or really any great scenes, to be honest. So I guess people would point to the Dobby death. But around this point, I was thinking, like, man, most of, like, Voldemort's character development is done through flashbacks or the older movies, the Tom Riddle reveal and stuff like that, where you see how he is when he was young and whatever. The actual Voldemort character in practice, he's quite like just a mustache twirling, I'm evil, killing his own men and all the kind of tropes you expect. I just don't really care about him that much. And I guess that leaves Deathly Hallows Part 2. I'm just not that passionate about this one either. It's kind of flat to me. For, I don't know. You get to Gringotts again. You get like a few more memorable set pieces than Part 1. But the big battle and stuff just doesn't really work for me. They're just not that scary to me. Like the villains in this franchise and the Death Eaters and whatnot. I remember them being so sort of mysterious and intimidating in those books. But like the siege on Hogwarts towards the end was really making me think of the Battle of Five Armies, the Hobbit film. Even though this is way before that. And I don't know, I think there's just something emblematic about this is the thing that started the splitting books into 2 trend, which is sometimes earned, sometimes isn't. You at least get payoffs that just aren't in part one. Like the way it concludes is quite good. I do like the whole Snape reveal is very cool. It's probably the best part of the movie. And like the whole secret Horcruxes stuff and all of that lore is cool. But just, I don't know, it just kind of rings hollow to me. It's quite ugly, drab. Yeah, I just really am not very passionate once we get past that original trilogy, I want to call it. And this probably would be my ranking. Azkaban, Secrets. And yeah, the only real controversial one I'd say is Secrets. I mean, you can tell me otherwise. I'd like to know your lists or whatever. Yeah, because I'm thinking about them as films as they stand, as kind of experiments in totality, how they are compared to the books. And that's one of the things that I think is worst about Half-Blood Prince. I remember there being some, correct me if I'm wrong, there's like a really cool like battle sequence at Hogwarts towards the end of the book that just isn't in it in any way. And I know like there's such big books that adapting them is so tough. They had to pick and choose, but I feel like the stuff they chose in its place are just like not very memorable or interesting. So I kind of start getting a bit lazy-eyed once you get to Goblet of Fire. But this probably would be my ranking. Yeah, when the wands become guns and like it's just something very like Hollywood about I'm Harry and I'm shooting the bolt at you, Voldemort, and I'm shooting the bolt back and I'm screaming and the particle effects. And it's like, this used to be about like magic and kind of goofiness. There's like a campiness to those earlier ones. And I know that it'll be tonally difficult to balance that with how serious it gets towards the end. But there could have been some middle ground at least with like, I don't know, once you get to like Hagrid's brother, like, is that Half-Blood Prince? So I watched these in like a row, so it's like a blur of Britishisms. Yeah, once you get to like Hagrid's brother and it's like this big CG monster and they don't even really care about like using models or miniatures in the same way by that point, it does lose some of its like, magic. Yeah, what else is notable about these guys? So what's that, 2004, 2, 1, 7. Yeah, I feel like Goblet is where it kind of just started losing me. Is that a coincidence with like the size of the books? Maybe. That is an inherent challenge, but yeah, wands as guns. I didn't take notes, so this is all off the dome, so if I sound stupid, like sorry. Just that I can't even remember who directed Goblet of Fire, but I can't go into it much right now anyway, because I didn't rewatch it, but my big problem is David Yates. I just don't think that was a good choice, and those Fantastic Beasts movies just go on to prove it. And I saw his weird Tarzan film the other day, well, a few months ago now, last year even, and that was like, yep, this is like the same kind of flat direction, very reliant on sound stages and just very kind of director for hire type energy. Whereas I feel like, yeah, it does peak quite early on at the third for me, but I don't know, it's fun, it's cute. One thing I did enjoy on this watch, actually, how can I put this? I liked the way Britain was represented as far as all the different like accents. You have Irish, you have Scottish, you've got like Queen's proper English with Hermione or whatever and other characters, but you've got Northern in there too, Longbottom and all the different teachers and whatnot. It's a nice representation of the UK, which I thought was cool, and I didn't remember it being that kind of diverse. And that is one of the things I like about the UK, is that we have, it's a very small, tiny island, but there was all these like subcultures and different accents. Like for every like hour you drive, there's a different accent you hear or personality. And I love like Hagrid being like a West Country, and it's very charming and fun. And I really get why people are obsessed with this world, and like the flying Ford Anglias and stuff. I don't know if there's any sort of tinge of nostalgia that makes these Chris Columbus ones kind of sit better with me, but I don't know, I feel like they've aged a lot better than especially Goblet of Fire and Half-Blood Prince. But yeah, I think that's all I'm really thinking right now. Let me have a quick not look at that. Yeah, I love like the little hooks of like the defense against the dark arts teacher being a significant player in each one until it finally becomes Snape and blah blah blah. It's very cool. But overall, like a fun, cool project. I like going through. I will tend to just go through all of them if I do a rewatch, even though it definitely peaks here. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Kind of a low-key, rambly video, but I'm gonna save that and then not look at the comments.